Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Condon UNSCRIPTED. In this episode, I'm going to talk through, there's quite a lot I want to talk through. So I'm going to talk through a recent challenge that I did last week, and I completed it at the weekend. So I want to talk a little bit around some of the things I achieved on the back of that. I want to talk about a video that I've got planned to make either next week or the week after, which is about a time capsule. I want to talk about the future of this podcast on the back of that. So starting a second one, am I going to continue doing this one? Short answer is yes, but I'm going to context it. I've got some exciting parkrun challenges that I want to do over Christmas. As I'm recording this podcast, we're at the end of November and we're about to start to go into the festive season, obviously with it being December. So that's the best time of year for parkruns in my view. It's the time of year where I get a lot of time off work. I don't get a lot of time off of YouTube, but it means I can invest some energy and something that's a huge luxury to me, which is time, I can invest into doing some fun challenges that I enjoy doing. And one of them is parkrunning. I also want to talk about Zwift. I had a Zwift ride, literally just got off the bike now. Had a shower, got changed, sat at my desk to record the podcast. I want to talk about that ride, and I specifically want to give you an update of how I'm getting on with my rocker plate, and on the back of my last episode where I talked about the Rafa or the Festive 500, which is the Zwifting cycling equivalent of cycling 500 kilometers over the festive period. I had the idea to do like an Everesting version of it where I try and do it in one go, non-stop, cycle 500k. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. So I'm going to talk a little bit around that. And then I want to talk, obviously this is the last episode of season 2, unbelievably, 2 seasons, 16, or it's actually 17 episodes because I did a bonus episode on the end of last season. Next week or the week after, I might have a small break, but next week or the week after, I'm going to have Tracy back on the podcast with me because there's a few things I want to go through with her, and I want to talk about the future of this podcast. So that's what I've got planned for the next 45 minutes or so, 50 minutes, whatever. I don't time these episodes, as you can probably tell, because some are 50 minutes long, some are over an hour. Last week it was 45 minutes. So yeah, I don't plan times. I just try and keep them under an hour. That's my aim for these podcast episodes. Now, obviously, and I said this when I started this podcast, this is a bit of an experiment to see whether there is any appetite for people to want to listen to me talk about things that don't go into my videos. My main priority, and it always will be, my main priority is to stay fit, keep healthy, keep the weight off, and don't fall back into any of my really bad old habits. I don't think there is a problem with that. Overeating, over drinking, living to excess. I'm not really into that now. That's not my lifestyle. I'm in the process, weirdly enough, of reading a book called Atomic Habits. Now, anyone that's into fitness has probably read this book. Anyone that's into changing their lifestyle or creating new habits, good habits, has probably read Atomic Habits. And it talks about the 2-minute rule. There are some things in it that do resonate with me, but there are some things in that book. I'm not going to use this podcast, by the way, to talk about Atomic Habits. The only reason I'm touching on this is because I use this podcast to talk about things that don't make it into my videos. And I aim to continue making videos on my YouTube channel. And this podcast has been something which has been an addition to that. It's something that's above and beyond. And in this book, it talks about 2-minute rule, where if you want to change behavior, you do things for just 2 minutes every day. And then eventually it becomes part of your day-to-day routine. I've done that with Zwifting, I've done that with running, but I do them to excess. I don't do them for 2 minutes. I do the opposite. I will spend far longer than I should, probably. I sacrifice a lot of other things to do these things that I know are important to me. So I haven't finished the book yet, so I don't really want to get ahead of myself and start criticising it. But I would say if it's important, then find the time to make it happen and sacrifice something else that's less important. Sounds easy to say. I wouldn't recommend sacrificing time with your children or your family or your missus or your girlfriend, your boyfriend, whatever. Spending time with your parents, important. Spending time with your kids, important. I get that. That's not more important than, if it's health is wealth, that's more important. I'm going off on a tangent because I'm reading the book and it's on my mind. But I'm trying to think of a way of making a video about this because I think it would be interesting to kind of put it out out there into the ether around, some of the videos I've made around veganism and the criticism of the YouTube video I made around fitness being a myth, or burning calories to lose weight being a myth. I was thinking about making a video around Atomic Habits because it's really playing on my mind at the moment. And it's got me thinking, which is really good, which is one of the reasons. Weirdly, I actually started reading it because I want to read more. I want to spend more time reading. And I'm in the process of potentially making a video about that as well. I'm not very good at reading because I struggle with my concentration. I have really, really poor concentration levels, but I do obsess over things, which is a bit of an oxymoron. It's a bit of a contradiction in terms. If I want to do something, I will obsess over it. So running, I will focus my whole world on trying to have a training plan and sticking to that training plan. If I want to Zwift, as you've probably tell from my videos, I obsess over Zwifting. So I'm trying to obsess over reading because, there's good obsession and bad obsession. People that obsess over gambling, people that obsess over alcoholism, etc., etc. That's probably, to excess, that's probably a bad thing. Obsessing over wanting to being unbalanced, and I've talked about this in videos before, obsessing and being unbalanced towards wanting to lose weight and get fit, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, moderation in moderation. You don't want to go too far, at the detriment of spending time with your family or your loved ones. However, it can't be bad. So I'm trying to read more, is my point. But the reason why I've gone off on this tangent is because I want to include things in these podcast episodes that don't make it into my YouTube videos. That's why I set this up. So I'm going to talk about moving away from that now. So that's kind of setting the scene around what I'm going to talk about in these podcast episodes. The first thing I want to talk about is a challenge that I did last week. I've only just finished it, and it's going to be the subject of this week's video. If you haven't watched it already, go and check it out. It's live now. And tabbing is a British Army military term. I wouldn't Google the term tabbing because it has mixed connotations. You wouldn't want that in your Google history, I'm sure. But from my perspective, or the perspective of this challenge, it's a British Army military term. The Royal Marines call it yomping. The Americans call it rucking, which I kept calling it rucking because I watched a few American YouTubers who made videos about this. Basically, tabbing, yomping, rucking is moving or running or jogging, or in my case, shuffling a really long way with a heavy backpack. Now, in the instance of the challenge, my backpack was 45 pounds. It doesn't sound a lot. If you go to the gym and pick up a 45 pound weight, then you're doing some, but it's not the heaviest in the gym. Put that on your back and run with it, and you soon realise how heavy 45 pounds is. It's basically the average weight of a 7-year-old. I googled that. What weighs 45 pounds? And the first thing that came up on Google was the average weight of a 7-year-old. So it's basically putting a small child on your back, or medium-sized child, to be fair. 7's not that small, and running with them on your back. My challenge was to run 5k every day for a week. And then as I was doing it, I actually came up, I didn't decide to do this at the beginning. I just wanted to get out there and do more. And when I was doing it, I actually thought, I wonder if I could run a park run, which I love park runs. And I'm going to come on to park runs because I've got other things that I want to do with park runs this year before the year ends. But I wondered if I could run a park run and achieve that quicker than I did when I first started running, 2.5 years ago. Now, when I first discovered park runs, it was by accident. I discovered park runs by coincidence because I was dropping my daughter off at work, and she worked in a park, in a zoo, where there was a park run happening at the time, and I was interested to see why there was so many. I thought it was a running group, but it was just too many. There was like 300-400 people, and I thought, this is an organised event. This looks like an organised event. And I asked someone, and they told me what parkrun was. That's how I discovered parkrun. Never heard of it in my life before. Unbelievable. It's a huge movement. Really, really good. Anyway, my point was, as I was out there on, I think, my first or second day of running with this backpack, I decided I'm going to go to my park run that Saturday and I'm going to try and beat my first time. Now, my first time actually transpired to be quite fast. It was under 33 minutes. Sorry, just under 33 minutes, which is quite fast. But the reason for that was because I did loads of runs. I did a few park runs initially and I didn't register my time. I'd been running up until that point of trying to move faster than a walking pace, and I hadn't been succeeding very well. And I'd gone to a park run and I did them in 40 minutes, something like that, 38 minutes. And I was really embarrassed, didn't register my time. But eventually I did, and I did a really good time. I must have really gone for it because I wanted to register, and I set myself a really good time. Parkrun 2 and 3 were like over 34 minutes, but that was my first one. That was the time I had to beat, and I went and did it. Now, spoilers, if you haven't watched that video, then maybe go and watch that now before listening to the rest of this podcast. However, if you have watched it, then continue listening, because I actually achieved sub 32 minutes, 31 minutes and 51 seconds, I think it was, off the top of my head. 31 minutes, 51 seconds. I was blown away by that. I was talking about this with Tracy this morning, actually, when I was talking about my achievements with this tabbing challenge, running with this backpack, because it destroyed my shoulders, destroyed my feet. I've got brand new boots as well, which I wanted to mention. If you've seen my fan dance video, you will know that the boots for the fan dance annihilated me, and I wanted to buy new ones. So I bought new ones, and I needed to break them in, so it seemed like a good idea. Another reason I wanted to do this challenge. However, when I went and did the park run, I didn't think I could do it. I turned up, I was looking more to make a video, have a conclusion to doing something for a week. But the aim of the week was twofold. The main reason I was doing it was because I wanted to get out of the house and try something that wasn't indoors. So i.e. Zwifting indoors. I spent most of my time for the last few weeks either editing on my computer, so staring at screens, or Zwifting, again, staring at a screen, because it's basically a computer game on a bike. So I wanted to get out the house. But then the other reason was I also wanted to break in these brand new boots, which, if you've ever worn boots, and it's not like breaking in shoes or trainers, boots are a different beast. You know, they will cut through your feet like they're a warm knife through butter. So, I had to get out and do something. But coming back to my first point, which was why did I do this challenge? I wanted to feel more. That was the name of the video. Like I said that I tabbed 5k every day for a week because I wanted to feel more. And that's exactly why. I was kind of mentally burning out by just sitting in this office. It's not the biggest room in the world. Staring at a screen, staring at two screens. I've got one here and one there. Staring at two screens. I wanted to spend more time outside. And the best time I've ever had in my fitness history was when I was training for the London Marathon. The London Marathon was in 2022, I think, and my memory is really bad. The London Marathon was in 2022. It was several years ago, and it was the best thing I'd ever done. I trained I trained every day for a year. Literally ran every day to the point of exhaustion, to the point where people were actually worried about me because I was so tired all the time. I was out running every single day, and I'm talking a minimum of 5k, but in most instances I was running 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 kilometers every single day. And then at the weekend I would ramp that up, and I, towards the end of the year, was trying my best to get to 20 miles. And I remember when I ran my first ever 20-mile distance in training, and I was so proud of myself. Really proud. Really slow. I ran the London Marathon in over 6 hours. 6 hours and 15 minutes, I think it was. Incredibly slow. I mean, I think I could probably walk that quicker now. I mean, I've done, 100k distances, and I've covered that distance where I'm reining it in because I need to cover 100k. I've covered marathon distances quicker now. And I'd be interested to see how fast I would be now if I turned up at a marathon, which I haven't trained for. So if I ran one tomorrow, it wouldn't be that quick. But I think, I would be quicker than my London Marathon. Interestingly, I've only done 2 marathons since the London Marathon. 2 marathons, 3 marathons. I've done more than that. But the only ones that I can remember was I did 5.5 hours, and then I did over 6 hours again, but that was over really, really hilly terrain. Oh no, have done more, because I did the muddy one at the beginning of this year as well. My point was, I was in a place where I really enjoyed the training, and I want to get back into that world where I'm out every day, no matter the weather, wind, rain, snow, freezing conditions, sunshine, blistering sunshine. I want to get out and carry on with that kind of mentality of training every single day, and I really enjoyed that. So that's what I was trying to recapture with the tabbing challenge, getting out every day, give me something to do, make a point of it. And I always say to anyone that wants to train, a tip I would give anyone that's looking to have an impact on their training, stay consistent, stay motivated, have something to aim for. So it's where I was on the day one when I was tabbing, I was regretting it because 5k doesn't sound far, but when you're carrying 45 pounds on your backpack, on your back, and you hadn't, built up to it or planned to do it, as soon as you're out there, you're like, I'm immediately regretting it. My feet were killing me, new boots, shoulders were on fire. I immediately regretted it. So I thought, well, I need something to aim for. So that's where I came up with the idea of the park run. Best thing I ever did, because it meant I then, every single day I was going out and I was trying to get better and better. I was actually getting slower. I don't know what happened. And then when I turned up at the park run, one of the best things about parkrun is the atmosphere, and it reinvigorates me, makes me want to run faster. I don't know how it just gives me a superpower. I become like a running machine, and I just went for it and I smashed it. Sub 32 minutes. Unbelievable. And then when I finished, I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do a sub 30 wearing this bag on my back. I wonder if that's something I can achieve. So, being that we have a family tradition where every single Christmas, I don't know if you know this, over Christmas, parkrun do several events, parkruns, not just on Saturdays. So over the Christmas festive period, they do them on Christmas Eve, regardless whether it's a Saturday or not. And obviously every Saturday, and sometimes they do them on the Sundays, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So there's loads to choose from, more than normal. So I'm going to turn up at as many as I physically can, as many as my family will physically allow me to, if they haven't got anything planned. And I'm going to attempt to not only set myself a full-on PB where I'm running with nothing on my back as normal, and then I'm going to also try it and see if I can get myself a tab-in parkrun PB where I do a sub 30 carrying a 45-pound backpack. I don't know if that's possible. I think sub 30 might be pushing my luck. It is really heavy. It's really awkward to run with. The impact on my feet and knees, you can feel it when you're trying to sprint or you're trying to push it as fast as you can when you're running downhill, especially where they've got the pounding downhill. Anyway, that's the challenge. So they're going to be my parkrun challenges for December, and I'm looking forward to that. Also, with parkruns, it means that I get to run with my children. So I get to run with my missus, who's naturally very fit, and I also get to turn up with my children and get them to do some cardio and exercise. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy Christmas parkruns. So now I want to talk about next week's video. It's a video about a time capsule. I'm struggling with the script at the moment. I want to write it. I've got a story that I want to tell, but I'm trying to do it in an entertaining way that it doesn't become laborious or completely unrelated to fitness. It is unrelated to fitness in the sense that there isn't a fitness challenge or goal at the end of it. But one of the reasons I wanted to change my lifestyle back at the end of 2018 going into 2019 was I was incredibly unhealthy, and I didn't want to stay the person that I was because I was very, very unhappy. Very unhappy. Like, that's an understatement. I'm not going to go down the road of why and the causes. Mainly alcohol abuse and a lot of overeating, which is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The unhappy you get, the more I used to drink and eat more. Anyway, the reason I had stopped all of that was because I wanted to improve my mental health. One of the things that I did to help me with that is I started a YouTube channel where I documented my fitness and weight loss journey because I wanted to see if I did achieve, and I know I would because I'd set my mind to it. If I did achieve what I wanted set out to achieve, I wanted to have a record of that. Now, looking back on it, I wish I did more. I wish I recorded weekly videos. I wish I did more things like this to camera where I was chatting about how I felt and about some of the achievements that I achieved. I didn't do more of that. That aside, that was the reason I started it. Kind of at the same time of doing this, it also made me want to make a time capsule with my children because I knew that it was a period in my life that I was changing. I was changing something. I didn't know what. I didn't know why. I didn't know if it would even work. I didn't know if I'd look back on it with, rose-tinted glasses or whether I'd look back on it with a negative or positive vibe. I was hoping it would be positive, and it is ultimately a positive period, and it was a positive change. However, I knew that it was something happening, and that kind of made me want to do something different that wasn't just start a YouTube channel, because I didn't know whether I would stick to the YouTube stuff. I knew I would stick to the running. Well, I wasn't running at the time, I was too heavy, but I knew I would stick to the weight loss, the changing my diet, eating less, giving up alcohol, and walking. I walked every single day for like 2 years. Every day. I knew that I'd stick to that, but I didn't know whether I'd continue making YouTube videos. But what I did do was make a time capsule with my children, and they've completely forgotten about it. The time capsule, and this is what the story is going to be. So you guys listening to this, if you're listening to this on Patreon this week, then you're ahead of the curve. I don't even know whether I'm going to have time to finish the script for next week. Next week's video might be something else. I've got a couple of things on the boil, but I want it to be the time capsule video. So if you're listening to this, you're ahead of the curve. The script is going to be about how, when we made the time capsule, my aim with the time capsule was to kind of make it a period of our lives at that moment where my children were, this was 4 or 5 years ago, so my children were 4 or 5 years younger than they are now, and I wanted it to be a snapshot. I was 40. I just turned 40, or it was just before I turned 40, and I wanted that period of my life to be reflective of them and us then for when they turn 40. So we locked the time capsule. I haven't actually sealed it. This is, my children won't be listening to this. They think the time capsule's sealed and locked away, hidden away somewhere. Loft, garage, storage container somewhere in Essex. It's none of them. It's under my desk here. I've got the time capsule under my desk here in a box, protected, looked after, and in there are things that they wanted to put in that were important to them at the age that they were at their 4 or 5 years ago. They've got stuff in there that's relevant to them then, probably not relevant to them now. They'd probably put something completely different in there if it was done now, but that's the period we chose to do it. I've got a plan. I'm going to take a load of things that I've recorded. I've recorded interviews with my mum and dad, who probably won't be here. Now, we're going to open the time capsule when they're 40. So it's going to be in 30 odd years from now. We're going to open the time capsule then. So they've forgotten about it. They don't even remember doing it. They don't talk about it at all. It's completely gone out of the zeitgeist of our family. It's completely gone out of our imagination and our memories. We don't talk about it at all. It's completely hidden. I make a point of not talking about it, because if we talk about it, then it's tempting. And if anything happens to me, God forbid, touch wood, or their mum, my partner Tracy, again, touch wood, then I don't want them going looking for it. I just want them to keep it safe. They know to keep it safe, and then opening it when they turn 40, both of them together as sisters, when they've got their own families and they've got their own children, and they can open it with their children. That's the aim. Now, I've got interviews that I did with my mum and dad, who, my mum's not very well, so she won't be around for them when they open it. And my dad, is in his 70s. He definitely won't be around either. And, who's to know what the future holds? I don't want to make it all morbid, but that's kind of, I've done interviews. I've got interviews with my grandparents who aren't here anymore. They passed away a few years ago, but I was able to record some interviews with them. I spent some time with them, so that was good. I've also got some bits and pieces that I've done that I've made into videos that haven't been put onto my YouTube channel. But all these videos that I've made that are family videos, personal, private moments of our lives, I've put them onto a USB. I've put them onto a separate hard drive. So a USB, separate hard drive. I'm going to put them into a cloud storage, because I don't know whether these USB devices will survive the next 30 odd years. I don't know if they'll seize up, if they'll get, accidentally, I don't know what's going to happen. So I've put them in a cloud storage as well. But I also have put them on a private YouTube channel. No one can access it but me. And I've put all the passwords to these accounts in the time capsule. So when they open it, not only do they get to have their fun toys that they've put in there, and their letters to themselves and mementos of things that were important to them. Because I said to them, I gave them a list of instructions of what I wanted them to do. And they spent like several weeks gathering all this. And they enjoyed doing it. They gathered. So on the list was things like Christmas cards, birthday cards, letters, toys, things that they wanted to put in there. And they went around and they came up with ideas themselves. In the end, my children, being my children, didn't really listen to a lot of what I said and just ended up doing what they wanted to do, which is what I wanted. I just gave them this list of things that I wanted them to put in to the time capsule to get the juices flowing, to get them thinking about it. They ultimately then ran with that and changed a load of things and brought in things that I never even thought of, which was great. They were able to put them into this time capsule. We've sealed them inside paint cans. So we bought empty, brand new paint cans from a shop, several of them. They had a couple each, sealed them up So they're completely watertight. I've then put them inside watertight. I've then put those containers inside a watertight box, and then I've sealed that watertight box up as well. So they're all secure. Well, I say I've sealed it. I'm going to seal it. That's what I'm going to do in next week's video. That's what the video is going to be about. Me sealing it permanently, because it's about time that I did that. I've been meaning to do it for the last 4 or 5 years, and I've never actually got round to it. It's just lived under here. That's the plan. We have interviews in there that me and Tracy have done. So messages from us to our 40-year-old children in the future. And the reason why we've done this, the reason why I want to make this video next week, is because the biggest thing I can give them are my motivational videos that I make on YouTube. One of the biggest motivations that I have is my children. Doing this, one of the reasons I wanted to lose weight is because I wanted to be able to run around with them in a park, play football, play frisbee, do the things that most people take for granted with their children. I wasn't able to do that. As soon as I moved any distance, I was exhausted, had to sit down, couldn't do it. Couldn't play football, anything like that. Cricket, I was just too obese. That was one of the things I wanted to do. I also wanted to stop drinking and lose weight because I knew that if I carried on the journey, I was 30 stone. So I just need to put this, I know I've said this in videos, but if I'd carried on at the age of 38, 39, which was when I made the decision to change my life around, if I'd carried on to the age of 50, I probably wouldn't have seen 50. And that's not an over-exaggeration. I would have been, at best, I would have developed health issues because of my weight problems, and that would have just contributed to how unhealthy I was being. And I wanted to extend my life expectancy, so as I'm here to see my children grow up, get married, have careers, achieve the things that they dream about achieving, and have and see my grandchildren. So my time capsule is my YouTube channel. Now, obviously, that's public. They can watch it anytime, but they don't. They don't watch my videos. Occasionally, they'll watch the odd video here and there because, I don't know why. They just decide to. I think at this age, because they're teenagers, they think I'm a bit cringe that I make YouTube videos. My dad, who's in his 40s, makes YouTube videos about running and rucking and Zwifting. I think they see that as a bit cringe. It's one step away. Zwifting, definitely. It's like a computer game. That's one step away from me making Minecraft videos, which is what they watch. And I think if I did make a Minecraft video, they'd disown me and move out. So, yeah, that's my time. Because I know that when they're older and they have their own children and I'm not here anymore, and we've moved on, or they've got their own life and I'm retired, I know that my YouTube channel will be there for them to watch, and their children will be able to watch it. And I hope that it inspires them to want to push themselves to be the better version of themselves, and to know that in the face of adversity, they can overcome anything. And that if they don't like something about themselves, and when I say don't like something, I don't mean, we all have to face into our demons, but if they've got those demons, they can overcome them. They can stop. If they don't like something, they can change it. That's the message that I want to leave them in my video. So that's kind of an underlining story that I have on my channel. That's the aim of why I ultimately want to build a channel. So as I've got something which, when I make videos, I'm not really explaining this very well. I'm not doing a very good job of articulating it. When I first made videos, knowing no one would watch them, not a soul, I used to upload a video and a week later, it would still be on 0. The only ones or twos that I used to see were where I would rewatch it to make sure that there was no errors. And then occasionally, I would ask Tracy to watch it to ask her what she thought of it, so as I could change, because I needed someone to give me feedback. I didn't know, my videos were appalling. The more feedback I got, the more I learnt. No one watched them. So when I uploaded them, I did it with the intention of knowing that one day my children would be my audience, and that's how I made videos. And eventually, over time, over 5 years, I did gain a small audience. I've got a small, my audience is a lot bigger than it was when I first started, but in the grand scheme of YouTube, it is still quite small. But I still make videos. Now, obviously, I've got one eye on wanting to entertain people and keep people coming back to my channel, because I don't want my videos to be a chore to get through. Some YouTube videos that I watch, I love watching Zwift, but oh my God, some of them are a some of them are a right effort to watch. Just watching someone grind for 45 minutes straight with no commentary, that is hard to not skip, guys. I'm just going to say that for anyone who makes YouTube Zwifting videos, please add some commentary or at least do some editing. But my aim is I always have an aim with my audience to ensure that people enjoy watching my videos. But I still have that fundamental reason as to why I upload videos, and that is to hopefully one day motivate and inspire my children to achieve more. And that's the time capsule story. I haven't done a very good job of explaining that. Hopefully, once I've got it all down on paper and I've kind of worked out what the story is, how I'm going to line it together, hopefully the video will be able to articulate that a bit more. But that's the aim. That's the aim. Time capsule video. I'm not sure what I'm going to call it yet, but I'm going to seal the time capsule on video and put it up there. And then that will be it until the year... I can't remember what year now. Until they're 40. What I'm doing now, this podcast, I'm going to continue because I really enjoy talking about things that I've achieved, talking about things that I've made videos about, and talking about things that I'm going to be making videos about in the future. Hopefully you guys will stay on this journey with me. Hopefully you'll continue coming back to my podcast channel, Condon UNSCRIPTED on YouTube. Remember that I do upload these podcasts a whole season early on my Patreon. So if you want to be completely up to date, please consider joining and supporting me on Patreon. I make next to no money on YouTube. If you saw how much I actually make, you'd be very surprised. It's not a huge amount. It really is minuscule. And I use Patreon to subsidize the cost of running a YouTube channel because there is costs involved. It's not free. And your support on Patreon massively helps me. It means that I'm able to continue doing this. And in return, I hope you get value from some of the things that I put on there exclusive for Patreon and join on YouTube. So if you don't want to use Patreon and you just want to stay on YouTube, you can support me on there on my join button. The future of this podcast, as I've mentioned already, I'm going to continue to do this, and I'm going to bring Tracy in more often because we've actually really enjoyed. I have, especially. She's kind of on the fence with it, but she's not great on camera. Well, I want to say she's not great on camera. She's brilliant on camera, but she doesn't enjoy talking to camera. I have to kind of prompt her, which is great because, I don't want a YouTuber. I want someone who's going to be honest in their opinions. And Tracy is very, very honest. So I'm going to bring her in more into my podcast on a weekly basis. I'm also going to use it as a platform to interview some interesting characters about some of the achievements that they've made in the world of fitness. And I'm also going to talk about Zwift on here, but I'm also going to talk about my other big things that I've got coming up. I've got a big year for 2025, but it's going to be a bit different. I haven't signed up for any events. Nothing. I've got nothing. Normally, this time of year, going into a new year, I would have 5 or 6 things that I've got planned for the entire year. I did have one thing, which was Ride London, which was a biking 100-mile event. It got cancelled. I never cancelled it. The event organisers cancelled the whole thing and refunded my money. So now I have nothing planned. But I do have some things that I want to achieve. So having nothing booked in is different to not having anything I want to do. There are some things that I want to do. So I hope you stay tuned for 2025. And then really, really quickly, because I touched on it in the last episode, I had my Zwift ride today. 3 times I've attempted the same course. The Zwift Racing Series that's currently live, that started this week, is on a new course called, I can't remember what it's called, Triple something. Basically, it's the Jarvis Island and Volcano course combined. Absolutely brutal. And now I've done a race up out the Zwift, killed me. I didn't come first. That wasn't a race. That was me just trying to get to the top and hope that other people weren't as slow as me. Well, there were some that weren't. Well, basically, I came almost dead last. And I've done loads of other hill climbing races. I did one that was up the grade twice. Nowhere near as bad as this for some reason. And the reason why it wasn't as bad as the one that I did today and twice, yesterday and the day before, was because I was that close to getting to the top of the Jarvis Island Com with the lead pack. That close. I get to 3/4 of the way up, and then they just sail away because I run out of gas. I've got to do 400 watts to get to the top the whole way. So it's like 5 minutes of maximum effort, 400 watts to get to the top with them. I did it today, and I got to the top of the lead pack. I got to the top with the lead pack. Now I'm going to turn that, because it was such a good video, I've actually recorded it. I didn't record any of the others this week. I don't know what made me record it today. Something felt different when I woke up. So I thought, I'm going to record it. I'm going to turn it into a race review and put it on my Patreon page for those that are interested. I just wanted to mention it here because I've been really struggling with the rocker plate. So if you've seen my video from last week on my main YouTube channel, you will know that I've got a new rocker plate. I did a first impressions of it. And the rocker plate's brilliant, really well made. But I'm struggling to stand up because of how uneven I am on it, how wobbly, for lack of a better term. I was struggling to describe it, but basically it's just the wobbliness of how hard it is to stand up on it. And I'm looking at it now, and I nailed it. I overcame it. It was really, really good. People have suggested that I put some more air into the bellows. There are like balls that use that level you back up, that help you go back up. They push you back up. And that's, they do that by filling them with air. And the people have said make them firmer, make them, harder, so you don't move as much. I don't want them to be firmer. I like how incredibly wobbly I am, because when I really go for it, I'm actually getting quite a lot of feedback back from the bike now. It means I'm actually able to put some weight down into the pedals, which I really enjoyed doing in this race. So it worked really well for me. In last week's episode, I talked about the Rapha 500. I don't know if I'm going to do it. I'm not sure whether I want to spend 20 odd hours cycling on Zwift non-stop. I quite like the idea of doing it as a challenge, and I think it will make for a good video. I just don't fancy. I don't know if I want to. I'm still, the jury's out, guys. The jury's out. I'm touching on it now at the end of the episode because I mentioned it last week in last week's episode, and I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. But I'm in a place where I'm not scared of doing it. I'm happy to give it a crack. I'm not even scared of failing if it becomes... I might do that. I might just go see how I get on. But I just find it dead boring, just staring at a screen. I want to race, but I can't do 500k in a race. That's mental. So I'm thinking of a way in which I can do it. If I stream it, will it make it interesting? If I invite other people to come along and join me, will that make it interesting? I'm thinking about maybe do I get my family involved? But... that's going to be really... Anyway, that'll be a complicated process. I don't want to complicate it. I want to do something that's fun. So if I don't do that, I might do something else. I am considering, and this is something which I haven't decided on also, so I probably should stop saying this, but that's the point of this podcast, is that I kind of just share kind of some of my ideas. One thing I am considering doing with my family is an Everesting, is an Alp to Zwift challenge. I watched a YouTuber, much bigger YouTuber than me, and he did a challenge, and I really liked it, up Alp to Zwift, where he rode it at his max effort, tried to set a PB, got to the top, and then got his children and his wife to ride it on the bike to see if they, between, I think it was 4 of them, to see if they could beat his time. I quite like that as an idea. So I set a PB up the Alp. Obviously, the weight doesn't change. We can change the height of the bike, make the bike the correct height for them individually. I can show them how to do that. But I set a PB up the Alp, and then between the 3 of them, so Tracy, Scarley, and Maddie, between the 3 of them, can they beat my time? So when they get tired, they get to swap out, so they get to recover. Can they beat me up the Alp? I think that'd be quite a good video. That's the end of this episode, guys. I just want to say thank you for sticking with me and supporting me through season 1 and 2. Also, I'll be back with Tracy for the start of season 3 of my podcast, Condon UNSCRIPTED. Thank you for sticking with me. See you in the next episode. Cheers, guys.